You know what's funny about saw traps? Everyone thinks they're smart enough to escape them, but after spending the last 3 months analyzing every single trap in the franchise, I discovered something disturbing. There are 15 traps that are literally impossible for the average person to survive. Not because they're difficult, but because they were intentionally rigged from the start. And the most unwinnable one, yeah, you won't even see it coming because it's that crazy. Look, I can already see you thinking, I could survive these. And if you're that person, hit the like and subscribe button and stick around, because by the end of this video, you'll understand why even Jigsaw himself couldn't escape these traps. And trust me, no amount of "I'm built different" is gonna help you here. Let's start with what looks like one of the simplest traps in the franchise, until you notice the one detail that makes it mathematically impossible to survive. The Venus flytrap from Saw 2 looks simple enough. Get a key from behind your eye before the metal mask turns your head into a human pincushion. 60 seconds on the clock. Easy, right? Well, a trauma surgeon actually broke down why this trap has a 0% survival rate. It's not just because of the pain. First, there's the shock factor. Your brain needs 10 to 15 seconds minimum to even process what's happening. That's literal neurological processing time. By the time you understand what you need to do, a quarter of your time is already gone. But here's the real kicker. Human anatomy makes this literally impossible. The key is placed behind your eye, requiring you to not just cut your eye socket, but navigate around crucial arteries that, if nicked, cause unconsciousness in under 30 seconds. Even if you are a perfect surgeon who can give surgery to yourself, which good luck doing that, the procedure would take a minimum of at least 45 seconds. And that's assuming you've got steadier hands than a brain surgeon doing their taxes when they just evaded the IRS. Most of us can't even put contact lenses without blinking 10 times. And in the time needed to actually unlock the mechanism, you're looking at 90 seconds minimum for a task that gives you 60. The math doesn't lie. This trap wasn't designed to test you. It was designed to kill you. But the Venus flytrap is practically a carnival game compared to the Silent Circle. Imagine the movie A Quiet Place, except instead of illegal aliens, it's metal rods connected directly to your vocal cords. Make any sound above a whisper, the rod rips out your throat faster than my ex-wife Becky left me. Here's where it gets scientifically impossible to survive. Your body has involuntary responses that you physically cannot control. Even neurologists confirm that these reactions are literally hardwired into your brain. One, we have pain responses. Our bodies scream before our brain knows it's happening. Two, startle reflexes. These can't be suppressed, and they'll trigger a vocal response in 1/10 of a second. And three, vasovagal responses. These cause involuntary gasping under extreme stress. The trap's trigger threshold is 40 decibels, the same as a quiet library. But here's the cruel genius part. Heavy breathing from fear alone hits 45 decibels. Your own survival instinct literally triggers the trap itself. Imagine trying to stay quieter than a library while walking on broken glass and watching other people die. That's not a test of will. That's just sadistic engineering. But these two traps are just the warm-up. Up next, we've got something that makes basic physics your worst enemy. The pendulum trap looks simple. Stop a swinging blade by crushing your hands. But some mechanical engineers have actually broken down why this is physically impossible to survive, and it's way more messed up than you think. Let's talk physics. The pendulum blade weighs 45 pounds and swings at 4 meters per second. That's generating enough force to cut through reinforced steel. But here's the detail everyone misses. Even if you were able to get out of the trap, it doesn't stop the pendulum. The whole point of the pendulum is that they swing back and forth. Back and forth. By the time that you would be able to get out of the trap, it would still be swinging and you would be getting cut in half. So even if you somehow managed to crush every bone in both hands, all 27 of them, the pendulum's momentum doesn't stop. It's like trying to stop a speeding train by throwing marshmallows at it. The laws of physics don't care about your survival instincts. Seth, the original victim, did everything almost perfectly, crushed his hands in record time, followed every instruction, but still got split in half because Jigsaw apparently took divided we fall a bit too literally. But the pendulum is just basic physics at work. The classroom trap, this is where Jigsaw got his PhD in human biology, and it's terrifying. 15 hooks pierce through your body, including your jaw. You've got 60 seconds to rip them all out before a bomb detonates. Sounds brutal, but doable, right? Wrong. Trauma surgeons have actually analyzed this trap, and they've discovered something horrifying. Here's the actual medical breakdown. Each hook is precisely placed through a major blood blood vessel. Just removing one triggers catastrophic blood loss. Your body would immediately start emergency protocols. 15 seconds in, your shock response would initiate. 20 seconds in, blood pressure would plummet. 25 seconds in, your motor functions would fail. 30 seconds in, your vision would blur. You physically cannot remove all 15 hooks before your body shuts down. It's not about pain tolerance or willpower, it's pure biology. Your body will literally stop functioning before you can finish. This trap isn't testing survival instinct, it's exploiting basic human anatomy to ensure death. It's like trying to finish a marathon while actively bleeding out. Spoiler alert, the bleeding wins every single time. But if you think these traps are bad, wait to see what happens when Jigsaw decides to turn basic human psychology against you. Because this next trap, it proves that your own mind is deadlier than any blade. The razor box trap isn't just cruel, it's a masterclass in exploiting human psychology. You're poisoned, dying, and there's an antidote in a box lined with razor blades. Simple enough, right? Except according to neuroscience, it's actually impossible to survive this. When your brain detects a life-saving solution when you're dying, it triggers what's called an acute survival response. Your prefrontal cortex, the part that handles rational thinking, literally shuts down. The primitive brain takes over completely. Here's the terrifying part. In testing, even people who knew about this response couldn't stop themselves from using both hands. But here's the terrifying part. This has been scientifically studied. In certain studies where people knew about this trauma response, people still couldn't stop themselves. Your own body is literally hardwired to keep you alive. It does not understand the complex nuance of a saw trap. But Jigsaw knew this. The box is engineered so both hands trigger a locking mechanism. The razors are angled like barbed wire. The more you panic, the deeper they cut. And you will panic. That's not weakness, it's neuroscience. It's like pulling your hand away from fire. Your brain is hardwired to do it. But if the razor box exploits survival instinct, the ice block trap weaponizes something even more basic: fear itself. Two massive ice blocks suspended above your head, a puzzle to solve, and a timer counting down. When you take a look at trauma psychology, something really interesting is revealed about this trap. When faced with a threat from above, your brain activates a part of it that's the same response that kept our ancestors alive when predators attacked from the trees. What happens is brutal. 1. Your amygdala will force you to watch the threat. 2. Stress hormones will flood your system. And 3, cognitive function would drop by 80%, meaning that 4, problem solving becomes literally impossible. The puzzle itself doesn't matter. Could be as simple as 2 plus 2. Under this amount of threat, your brain physically would not let you ignore what's above you and focus on a puzzle at hand. The genius part though, the ice blocks are deliberately placed high enough that would cause your brain to go into overdrive. This means this trap is pure psychological torture. But these traps are just playing with your mind. Up next, Jigsaw decided to turn human empathy itself into a weapon. And trust me, being a good person has never been more deadly. The shotgun carousel looks like a twisted game show, but it's actually a masterpiece of psychological torture. 6 people on a rotating platform, 1 shotgun, and you get to save 2 people. Each save costs you an electric shock. Simple enough, right? Wrong. When you take a look at how much electricity pulses through your body, you'll realize by the 3rd shock, it would cause total heart failure. No human heart can survive the voltage needed to save the 2nd person in this trap. But here's the truly diabolical part. Humans are naturally born to be empathetic towards others. That's why it's such a big deal when someone doesn't have any empathy. This trap is a psychological warfare because you literally are forming empathetic connections with these people before you see them die. You're watching people your brain has literally forced you to care about. So speaking of emotional manipulation, the public execution trap turns basic human psychology into a death sentence. 3 people are suspended over saw blades, and you have to choose who dies first. Save the person you both are fighting over, or save each other. Sounds straightforward until you understand the timing of things. When you look at the average person's decision-making process, it's fascinating in the worst way possible in this context. Your brain has a hardwired processing delay when facing multiple choices. It's called decision paralysis or analysis paralysis, and it's completely unavoidable. It's something that almost every single person watching probably knows about and has dealt with in their life. And if you have dealt with this, you'll know that the harder the decision, the more emotionally exhausting it is to you. So while you may survive this trap, you're not going to be making an educated decision. You're going to be acting upon survival instinct, and you will not care who the other two people of this trap are, even if one of them is your loved one. This trap literally exploits the exact limitations of the human consciousness. It's like trying to defuse a bomb while solving a moral philosophy exam, except the exam is your loved ones and the bomb is your sanity. But these traps just play with your mind. Up next, Jigsaw decided to turn actual physics into your executioner. And trust me, Newton's laws have never been more lethal. Upon reviewing this trap, I believe it has a 100% fatality rate, and I think it's more calculated than anyone has really realized. Here's the science I've found behind this. Your body has a specific trauma response sequence, and the rack exploits this perfectly. The first twist would hit your weakest joints, triggering immediate shock throughout your body. The second rack twist strikes exactly when your body attempts to compensate. But the third twist, your body would basically be overloading with pain that your nervous system wouldn't even be able to comprehend what's going on. Speaking of more torture, the horsepower trap turns basic physics into a death sentence. 4 cars, your limbs, opposite directions, simple concept, impossible math. This trap is probably the most silliest of them all because it's so far physically impossible that it's not even funny. Each car even mildly pulling in that direction would generate 20,000 pounds of force. But human tendons fail at 1,600 pounds, meaning that your body would rip in half before you even have time to get out of this trap. But here's the cruel part. The cars are calibrated to pull exactly 1.5 times human bone strength. Not enough force to end life quickly, but too much force to survive. It's literally like trying to hold together a paper boat in a hurricane, except that's a deadly one. So basically, you're gonna be ripped in half no matter what. This is not one full body workout I'm gonna wanna do anytime soon. And trust me, I don't want to be feeling the burn with this, but this is just going to break your body. Up next, Jigsaw created something that turns your own survival instinct into your executioner. And trust me, your fight or flight response has never been more useless. The angel trap might be the most scientifically cruel thing Jigsaw has ever created. Basically, this trap isn't just deadly, it's a masterclass in impossible choices. The setup looks simple. Device hooked to your ribcage, key and acid, 60-second timer. But here's where biology makes this lethal. These hooks are placed through your intercostal muscles. These are the ones you need to breathe. And the moment they activate, these muscles start tearing. But the real genius? The acid. It's sulfuric acid at pH 0.5. At this concentration, it would literally destroy your nerve endings in under 2 seconds. Your brain literally wouldn't be able to process the pain fast enough to react properly. And by the time you feel it, your hands already started decomposing. The trap literally creates a perfect death loop. Move too fast, your rib cage tears out. Move too slow, acid destroys your hand. Try to pull out, we both know you're not gonna, but both would happen simultaneously. But speaking of perfect death loops, the laser collar would turn your own heartbeat into your executioner. When you dive into sound engineering, you're gonna discover something brilliant about this trap's design. It's literally calibrated to fail. The collar triggers at 45 decibels. Whisper level is around 30, so that seems doable. But here's the cruel part. Your heartbeat, when scared, which starts to tip over that 45 decibel line. So the more you try to stay quiet, the louder you're gonna become. You physically would not be able to calm down enough to survive. The trap uses your own survival instinct as its trigger. Every attempt to stay quiet would make you even more louder between your heartbeat and your breathing. But that's just gonna exploit your human biology. That's boring. Because our final traps, they're gonna break so many laws of biology, physics, and yada yada out there. This is gonna become your new nightmare. And now we've reached it. The needle pit. When you really research this trap, you're going to discover that it's not just torture, it's perfectly engineered suffering. The concept really seems straightforward. Find a key in a pit of used syringes. But here is where it's diabolically evil. It exploits involuntary human reflexes. You're not dropping down slowly into this pit. When you fall, your body automatically tenses to cushion your fall. And this tension would drive dozens of needles deeper into you, causing you to hit major blood vessels. And when you feel the pain and instinctively pull away because that's what your brain does, more needles would go deeper. But here's the truly impossible part. Even if you found the key instantly, you're already infected. Each needle is basically gambling in what different pathogen would be on it. This trap isn't about escaping because no matter if you do escape, you're not going to survive the medical nightmare that is about to plague you for the rest of your short life. It's literal biological warfare. So there you have it. A ton of saw traps that are literally impossible to survive. But hey, maybe you still think you could beat one of these. And well, if you're one of those people and you're sitting there thinking, actually, I could survive the needle pit, it's not that bad, drop a comment below explaining exactly how you would do it or for any of the other traps covered. I'll be waiting to see these master escape plans, especially from the person who thinks they can literally break the laws of physics. And if you enjoyed this video watching me destroy your survival chances, then you should like and subscribe and check the playlist on screen now for a ton more videos explaining why you wouldn't survive horror movies.